Infinity Ward is my favorite Call of Duty dev studio. COD 4, MW2, MW3, Call of Duty Ghosts, Infinite Warfare, and MW 2019 honestly are the COD games I've had the most fun with over the years. The only notable exceptions for me being Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2. I just like how Infinity Ward does things most of the time, but there are some things that I just can't stand behind, and the big one is that somehow, and for some reason, Infinity Ward decided to make the stealth playstyle even worse than it was in MW 2019. Now in MW 2019, a lot of people had trouble with, camping and being able to rush because of footstep audio and whatnot, but I found the stealth playstyle in Modern Warfare 2019 to work very well. Dead Silence charged really fast and activated instantly, suppressors were very strong, and the Ghost perk was active 100% of the time. And while I wanted Ghost to only work while moving to prevent camping and still allow for stealthy flanking playstyles, doesn't matter. All of my opinions aside, objectively, you could stealth pretty well in Modern Warfare 2019. Then after tweaks and changes to the footstep audio, I would honestly say that MW is a game that I could confidently adopt a stealth playstyle in. I would run Tune-Up, Cold-Blooded, and Ghost, and just have Dead Silence charging rapidly, and it worked really well. Put a monolithic suppressor on my gun to both keep me off of the radar minimap and get rid of my tracers and give me 5% increase to my ranges. It was good. So MW2 comes out and makes the stealth playstyle worse. You can't get Cold-Blooded until a little bit into a match, you can't get Ghost until a lot later into a match, and suppressors don't work for some reason. If someone has a UAV up and you fire a suppressed gun, you show up on the minimap anyway, which is why? Statistically, the suppressors are pretty strong. They give you a good number of benefits to your bullet velocity, sometimes a recoil control, so the variety of suppressors you can use is great, but then you also have the problem that Dead Silence or Ninja still isn't a perk, it's a field upgrade, but now it's worse. Now it has a whole animation that you have to activate. You can't activate Dead Silence on a ladder because your character needs to pull out a fancy little backpack and hit a button and then you're silent. And there's an activation sound for it for some reason. They killed the stealth playstyle that much more. You can't load into a match of MW2 with Cold-Blooded and Ghost activated, not even a version of Ghost that only works when moving. No, of course not. And then because of the score streak kill streak system, people have a lot of flexibility when it comes to earning their UAVs. Then there's just a multitude of things that can spot you, including an actual spotting system that people are starting to use a little bit more. And it begs the question, how did we get here? Call of Duty's always allowed people to adopt a rat-like, lurky, stealth playstyle. They've always allowed that. I've said before on this channel, Call of Duty has an RPG-like mentality where you define your role and your playstyle by the perks, weapons, and attachments and equipment you choose. And while I love that Modern Warfare 2 gives us a plethora of lethals and tacticals and field upgrades to play with, and I think that's great, those are tactile, they're not just passive benefits, they're really, really fun and sometimes even playstyle defining, but perks are the things that really allow you to tailor your gameplay experience. And I've never thought that stealth was overpowered in a COD game. Very useful, very easy to utilize, but not necessarily overpowered, especially if the Ghost perk only works while moving, or if all suppressors take away your damage range like they used to back in the day. Making the Ghost perk, or whatever the equivalent of it is, a really expensive perk like in Call of Duty Ghosts, or putting it in a really heavily contested area like in Black Ops 2 where you really have to weigh the pros and cons of running it, that is what they used to balance stealth. But in Modern Warfare 2, if before the latter half of a game, a UAV is called in, you're screwed unless you take the time to shoot that UAV down. And enemies can have multiple UAVs and counter UAVs up at once. Then again, you can be spotted by snapshot grenades, heartbeat sensors, the spotting system, the spotter scope. Dare I go on? There's even an attack helicopter that spots you before it shoots the shit out of you. I don't know how many UI elements we need to show our position, and I don't mind footsteps being loud, but what I really don't like is that they made Dead Silence as a field upgrade worse and didn't decide to put in maybe a perk that keeps you silent. Like, why isn't there a base perk that keeps you off the UAV while moving, and then maybe also a version of Dead Silence that only works when sprinting? It doesn't really affect your walking that much because walking's already very quiet. It doesn't affect your tack sprinting, sliding, or dolphin diving. Those are all still noisy, but your sprinting is quiet. Then you could combine in your base perks a perk that keeps you off the radar while moving and keeps you silent while moving. You can't introduce all of these things that spot me. You can't do all of these things that paint me on the minimap, paint me on the HUD, just make me obvious as shit with my footstep audio, and then not let me counter them. If my footsteps were naturally quiet, if there wasn't a million things that could spot me, if this was a much more bare bones video game, then all I would really worry about is running a suppressor and watching my footing. But that's not how it works. It feels like Infinity Ward is trying to avoid a problem that could easily be balanced. Like, we fixed the Ghost perk back in Black Ops 2. We fixed perks in general in Call of Duty Ghosts, and, well, we simply refused to use that system twice. What I hate in Modern Warfare 2 is how many people have their gun up ready for me. I've been on the minimap, they've heard my footsteps, they've heard or seen my gunfire, and they're ready for me. Constantly ready for me. It turned Tracker into a crutch perk for me because it hides the little skulls that show up above your dead enemies. So I started running Tracker often because I just want one more layer of stealth, because the game only gives me that little layer of stealth that I can spawn in with. Then it's Cold-Blooded, then it's Ghost. And again, those are later in the game. Instead of balancing and making a more refined Cold-Blooded and Ghost perk, they just put the way that we've seen Cold-Blooded and Ghost a million times on timers. This affects my playstyle. My playstyle is on a timer. Dead Silence activation could have an animation and even a sound, but it should be fast. It should be a fast, quick little animation, not whatever the hell goes on with this. Dead Silence should also work the way it did in Call of Duty Vanguard, where using Dead Silence also keeps you off the minimap, so it doubles as a temporary Ghost perk. Vanguard had a Ghost perk and a Dead Silence perk, or a Ninja perk, and they still had Dead Silence as a field upgrade that did both of those things, but temporarily on a timer. Vanguard had a horrible perk system, but they still understood that giving players more flexibility to define their playstyle is going to make the game more fun and replayable overall. And that's exactly what MW2 needs. I like Modern Warfare 2, but a part of it just feels stale and boring, and while I like a lot of the base mechanics and I like a lot of the weapon customization, I think the problem is, between the maps being sort of uninspired and just not really having a lot of standouts, and the perk system being this limiting, and just the ability to have a stealth playstyle being completely removed, has sort of just drained a little bit of my interest in playing this game for long periods of time. Because this franchise has delivered me that variety-filled experience where I really feel like I can dictate my playstyle with the right perks and attachments, and when I don't have that variety, when I don't have that playstyle definition, it kind of feels like a lesser product compared to previous entries in the series, so that is my hot take on that. So please, Infinity Ward, bring back the Dead Silence that existed in Vanguard, put a version of the Ghost perk in the base perk section, allow us to take a third base perk, allow us to just equip the perks we want in like a pick 5 system. That would be really nice, because really the lack of flexibility here is damning to long play sessions, and it's wearing on me. So that's the point of this video. It's wearing on me. I'll see you when I see you guys. Goodbye.